Welcome to the Financial Freedom Mastermind Group podcast. Here we're all about breaking free from the 40 to 50-year work grind and accelerating our journey towards financial freedom. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast-track your path to financial independence. We serve as a hub for connecting with fellow members during our sessions so you can share successes, ask questions, and keep the momentum going.
Good evening, everyone. This is Niyi Adewale, host of the Akabo Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group, and I'm super excited to be joining you on this Wednesday, already heading into the last week of February, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. You kick off the new year with all these goals, and now you are 1/6 of the way through the year in a blink. And so I hope that you guys out there are getting after your goals and really shooting for the stars to achieve it in 2024. And tonight is going to be more of an open session. And so if there's any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat and or join live. But while we're waiting for that, one of the things that's top of mind for me today that I wanted to talk about is leaning into the uncomfortable conversations. I can tell you that this morning I had a couple uncomfortable conversations around different properties, as well as just things happening kind of in the market and just out there. And one of the things that I was told by both individuals that I had this conversation with is, hey, I appreciate the fact that you did this, that you wanted to come forward and have this conversation on this piece. And so as you get into the real estate investing game, but even your career, whatever you're doing, you want to get comfortable having these difficult conversations and not just going to go hide somewhere in a closet, because it's not going to go away, right? Whether it's, hey, going over budget on a project and having to have a conversation with a contractor, or, you know, any myriad of things, I would highly recommend leaning into those uncomfortable conversations and making it happen. But again, this is going to be an open session, so feel free to join via chat and or live, and we will kick this thing off. While we're waiting, another piece that's popped up is I actually was in Louisville, Kentucky this past week, and it was my first time being back there since we started the self-storage units, and it was pretty incredible to see the finished product. And so now we have the building inspectors in there just making sure we're good to go. They've already given us the green light to start renting these things out. And so I've put together a marketing plan with my partner, and next week we're going to kick it off. We've got some discount codes that we're going to give to the school across the street if teachers need to be able to store some of their stuff. So we plan to send some cool presents to all the teachers out there to kind of roll out the storage. We plan to send postcards to all the neighbors, right, within, a 1 mile radius of the storage, and give them a discount code. And we also plan to start doing Google ads, Facebook ads, things of that nature for the storage to really kick this thing off. So super excited to get that one going. That was a long project, plenty of delays, but we learned a lot. And now with this one kicking off officially next week for rent, we're going to be able to shift our focus to the townhomes and start really kicking that fundraising into high gear so we can get that one going as well. Thank you. I appreciate it. Desmond, why are you sitting in the dark, man?
I don't know why it looks so dark. I guess my room is pretty dark, but it's darker than it appears.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, for sure.
How you doing, man?
What's up? I'm good, man. How are you?
I am doing great. I don't know if you just heard about the whole self-storage thing, but
I did.
Dude, that was one where it was just a lot of dollars going out for a long time. And now it's like, okay, hey, we're here. Now we can actually start renting this thing out.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how much money you've had to spend doing that. Like, that's incredible. And I feel like it's such a cool thing that you're doing, but also such a big jump, I feel like, even from the 25 units that you have, which is a lot. And I think a lot of people would consider that, a pretty sizable portfolio. But going from that to doing, self-storage and then 100 something townhomes and doing that all on your own, at least just with like one other partner, and like you guys like driving a syndication and like so much sophistication, I feel like it's super cool. So kind of a question I have out of that, like, I guess when did you like what made you feel ready for that? Like how did you know
Dude,
you were ready?
full
And,
transparency, you're never ready for any of that, right? Even to
right.
go get your first house, you're gonna feel like, man, I am not ready to go do this. But the piece that I always encourage everybody to do, and I personally do this every year, I try to make at least one decision where it's forcing me to grow, because I just think about the time. And I'm going to come back to answering that question. But let's take it to sports, right? When you
Mhm.
see an athlete come from high school to college, from college to professional, there's always a time period where it takes them to adjust. And so typically in the NBA, NFL, things of that nature, people hit their stride in year like 5, 6, 7 after they've been
Mhm.
doing something for a while. And so if you carry that over to business, it makes sense that you're not going to be an expert day one when you get into something, right? Even with
Mhm.
the corporation that you work for, it's like, okay, first year you're trying to learn, hey, what am I actually doing here? Then you start to know the key players and move up. And 5 years later, you're doing pretty well. And so when I look at the real estate investing game and really anything in life, I'm always trying to push the boundaries and say yes. And in full transparency, it also helps to surround yourself with people that are either a couple steps ahead or on that same journey with you. And so it's a blessing to have my partner on that deal in my life, because she was somebody that I invested alongside, right, as my investor friendly realtor for 7 years. So she saw kind of my temperament. I saw how she worked under pressure, and she's the one that brought that deal and said, hey, Neat, I want to partner with you on this. Believe me, it wasn't me actively seeking it. It was her like, hey, do you want to do this? And
Yeah.
me saying, you know what, if she's going to be the boots on the ground, heck yeah. And then we both figured it out together.
Nice.
Robbie, how you doing, man?
What's going on? How you guys doing?
Super good. Now, are you calling from the actual house or from somewhere else?
Oh, I'm at my place, yeah, but not the one I bought. I still am renting out my apartment. But I'm looking to make that switch over probably September when my lease ends. It was really interesting. Like one of those things about that, when I got the house in March, I was right at that like high point of Airbnb, bookings and everything. So but I also had a lot of money to spend on different repairs and just getting the house ready and set. So I still profited during those months, but I wasn't anticipating the drop off in like the winter. So that was something that definitely was a lesson learned. But I think that the timing of when my lease ends in September, I'll get, the spring, the summer, and then be able to still make it like a real house hack and move in there. But I'm excited to move there. I don't want to break the lease and deal with all the stuff that goes into that. So I'm just going to wait it out a few more months and then move over at that time.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I think it's one of those where if it's working right now, why not just keep it going? Especially right now, heading into March, spring season. I'm sure you guys are starting to see more inquiries popping up for people trying to stay at your place.
Yeah, for sure. Over here, definitely.
Same here. And I got a question actually for Desmond. I meant to shoot you a text earlier and then I got completely distracted. With booking.com, in the past, one of the things that I was a little bit nervous about was being able to request for like repairs or if there's damage, things of that nature. But I was fooling around the website and I think there's a way. Are you able to request if somebody damages something for repairs?
Yeah, so you are, and there's two different ways you can essentially handle your like security deposits and also damage requests. Um, One way is allowing basically booking to manage it for you, like similar to payments, you can let them do it for you. And then if a guest does break something, you can file a claim, and then booking will like investigate and probably have you submit pictures and whatnot. And then if they determine that the guest did break it, they'll issue you the money. The other way is for you to collect the deposit on your own, and then I think, and I know that that's the method that we have selected on yours because you have the auto host and whatnot. And then from there, I don't know if there's a way after that to submit a claim on the booking system, given that like I think they think that you're managing it completely on your own, right? So I think that with the option that you have selected, because you have the auto host, and because I think it's implied that like you kind of have like the insurance and like you kind of have the backup on your own, there's no claim process with booking.com for that portion, I don't believe.
That is fair, because Booking.com was always kind of geared toward hotels before, but now they're getting better with B&Bs. But full transparency, we're starting to pull back on the auto host piece for everything outside of the mansion because we started getting red flagged, man. Like, I actually had to recreate a new VRBO like a couple weeks ago because we got hit like 3 or 4 times for going outside the website, even though it's clearly stated like, hey, we like this is a software, things of that nature. Long story short, they red flagged our account, and a lot of people started complaining on that piece like, hey, is this real? And we got hit. So they took the whole VRBO down, which was like 25 properties, which sucked. And so if you were trying to reach me over the last week and I was busy, it was probably because I was uploading everything again, which takes forever. But we created a whole new account, new email address, and pulled auto host off of everything but the mansion because we definitely need it there. And so I'm looking at booking.com and I'm like, okay, this is the place. This was the whole reason I got it to begin with, was because I was nervous about booking.com. And so I may need to connect with you offline on a way to put that stuff back in if we're not using auto host.
Yeah, sounds good. And I think too that, at least in my experience, like booking is a lot more hands off in terms of what they allow you to do with the communication and like what happens in the inbox as compared to especially Airbnb. I haven't really used VRBO much. I like my properties haven't done well there, but for Airbnb, I know that they like monitor the inbox. If you say something, off the wall, like they're gonna check you, and like, if you try to do some illicit shit, they're coming in on that. But for booking, I don't think it's that way, at least from what I've seen. I've never gotten any sort of like flag or notice or heard of anyone, because I kind of have looked at the forums and stuff too. They have like host forums and stuff you can look at. But at least in my experience, they're a lot more hands off in terms of the communication. So I think you could probably get away with doing something like an auto host in booking, especially like you said, since a lot of hotels are on there as well. And I think a lot of hotels will have their external stuff in the inbox as well. So yeah, just something to note.
Noted. And no, that'll definitely be something we kind of circle back on. Lee
Yeah.
Bond, my co-host, how you doing, man?
Doing well. As you know, we were tied up in some things, but we are here.
Hey, come on now. Just keep smiling. He's over here putting out fires, and I appreciate it. It is part of it. It is part of it.
Someone's got to. Hey,
Yeah,
you helped one.
yeah.
You helped today, though. You helped one today, though.
We try.
It's a team.
Hey, we try. No, Lee Bond, welcome. And also Eric, welcome, man.
Whole team's here.
So what you guys got? Lee Bond, I think you had something that you wanted to discuss today, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's actually the reason I'm late today. I kind of recently I've noticed that kind of in real estate, you got to have that phone ready because you never know who's going to call. We're in one of those industries where people are calling you for stuff. I'm sure you guys, being investors yourself, are constantly getting calls from people. Some of them you don't want to answer, but other times it's worth it. For instance, earlier we were just at home, and then one of our previous clients that we've helped do deals with, out of the blue, randomly, hey, can you get me a CMA for this? And then a couple days later, immediately, randomly again, hey, I want to put an offer in on what you just gave me a CMA for, completely out of the blue. And kind of the, I guess, takeaway from it that I really realized is that opportunity presented itself for me just due to building a relationship with them. And I can tell you as well, another really random call I received was from a wholesaler who I previously helped an investor buy a deal with. And they called me and said, hey, I'm starting to get a lot of stuff that is in retail condition. Could I use you as my listing agent for it and take it to market? So kind of consistently checking in randomly, and you don't have to do it consistently, but if someone's doing something where it's in line with what you're already doing, whether they're selling deals to people or doing something you're already doing, maintaining like how we do here, meeting, kind of checking in every once in a while is really kind of beneficial because you kind of stay top of mind in those people. And when they eventually have something that they want to go give a deal to or give an opportunity to, you're kind of the first people that's coming in to their top ahead.
Yeah, and I think even taking that a step further, right? We have a clear example with Desmond here. When you just are clear on what you're looking for and share that with the people around you as you go about your day to day, it's crazy what will come your way. Like he literally purchased a house because he was just talking to the neighbors, like, "Hey guys, this is what I'm looking for," and was able to make it happen. Liban over here is making it happen by having conversations with a lot of different individuals. And I can tell you another way is the longer you're in this game and people start to know, like, hey, you like to buy or shop for investments, and they kind of know your neighborhood and your buy box, quote unquote, and what you're looking for, the more opportunities that'll come your way. I can tell you that I get random calls now, right? And I try to, if I'm able to, answer every call, right? And so a couple of days ago, a Louisville number called me, and I don't even know how this guy got my number. But long story short, it's a different individual doing a project in Louisville, and he needs to buy dirt, and we still have some dirt to sell. And so he's like, "Yeah, man, we need like 300 loads next week. Can we work out a deal?" And so we worked it out. $70 a load. That's pretty good money, right? 70 times 300 is Eric. Please don't quote me. I think 21,000, right? That's pretty good, right? Yeah. It's so. Long story short, answer the phone, talk to everybody about what you're doing and what you're looking to do, and you'll be surprised what type of opportunities come your way.
100%.
Eric, what you got going on, man?
I guess nothing big new. Just trying to continue on the things I guess I've been going on, trying to look for another property, trying to get I guess the real estate part, like the agent part, going.
True. And on the property search, I know you're looking purely for investment or another house hack.
I think probably a investment first, and then maybe house hack if it pops up.
What are you looking to do with this one?
Probably another Airbnb, and then I've just also I've been looking for that. I've been looking into like a lot of houses with like assumable mortgages. If I want to find that, and for my own personal house, if I can find one that works for that.
Nice. Yeah, the assumable mortgage is honestly a play that hasn't been used for a while because interest rates were so low that individuals would just go out and get their own mortgage, right? And nobody wanted to kind of play that game. But now, especially houses that have been sitting for a while, yeah, people are open to it. That's part of how we got this seller finance deal out in Pittsburgh, right? Was the house was sitting for a while, came in and said, "Hey, I'll do it, right, for X amount if you can hold the rest." So it's huge, that assumable mortgage piece.
And on that one, do they stay on the name on like the existing debt if you assume their mortgage, or do you literally take it over? Or would that be subject to?
So I think if you take it over, it would, and it's no longer in their name, that's just, you assume the mortgage. But if subject to, they will still continue to be on the mortgage. So I think that's like the primary difference between the two.
With the ones with an assumable mortgage, right? There's still a delta between what they're asking for and the mortgage that's assumable. How would you handle that delta? Were you planning to pay cash for that, or would you get a second mortgage on that?
Yeah, I think you can do either for it. I mean, I've been mostly looking for ones for that I can pay cash, but I think you could also get a second lien on it as well.
Okay, fair enough.
I have a question. Go ahead.
Please.
I was just going to ask what you guys think, or if you've heard about any strategies for investments, like, kind of like smaller level investments. If I wasn't looking to do, another house purchase right away, but I wanted to get involved with, some type of kind of like low entry point type investment. I know that the Rich Monroe that you had on here before, he was talking about some different, tactics or strategies with Airbnb where you don't purchase the place and then you can, get involved with like 9 or 10 grand or something like that. So I was just wondering if you guys had thoughts on other things that maybe I should look into, because I'm hoping that by the end of the year, like I might have around that much to think about using, or obviously just continue to save it and then wait for something bigger or better. But I just wanted to know if you guys had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think I've talked about it before, but the arbitrage model, it definitely works for some. It's not one that I've leaned into because I don't get into the short term and the midterm rental game just for cash flow. The cash flow is great and it helps you hang on to the property. But my whole thing is I want to buy properties in awesome neighborhoods where it's going to appreciate. And this is just gravy on top, right? That cash flow. But I want to just hang on to the property and let it pay itself down. But Desmond, I know you have a unique experience with this, having done the rental arbitrage before. What are your thoughts on potentially trying it again and the actual costs that go into it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I definitely think that there's merit to the arbitrage model. And I see it just in having the B&Bs that I own myself. That like idea can translate in my mind very easily to me leasing an apartment out, right? So right now I'm taking the money that I'm making for B&B, I'm putting most of that toward my mortgage, and then I'm taking what's left over, right? And then, splitting it up how I want, right? So I think that can definitely translate very well to arbitrage, and I think it's just a matter of like finding the area and finding the right building that's going to fit that. But I know that there are people, where that's their whole game, or people that, are starting to scale much and much larger. So like Tony Robinson, for instance, I listen to him a lot and he mentions arbitrage. I feel like more and more as time goes on, especially with houses being like harder and harder to purchase. So definitely think there's merit there. I tried one out, didn't work as I really wanted it to. But that was really just a product of me not doing things that I knew I was supposed to be doing. But I definitely want to try it out again. I think that there's, definitely some value there. And I like the low barrier to entry, specifically the low barrier to entry that I don't have to put a lot of my own cash into, right? So I can take my cash, use that for the first month's payment, the security deposit, and maybe like the second month's payment. But ideally after that, the Airbnb can be kind of sustaining the lease, right? And then I furnish the B&B. And this would be kind of the model that I would use, and I feel like one I've heard can work. But you furnish the Airbnb with a 0% APR card, right? And even the same model is used, right, for B&Bs that are owned. And Nee really was the one that was saying, hey, don't use your money. I think the first time I was trying to set up the B&B, like, where do I get all this cash? So I think being able to like utilize that strategy of like not using your money to furnish it, paying back that credit card with the revenue that you're making, and then ideally paying the lease with the revenue that you're making as well after like month 2, you're only like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 of your own cash into the deal. Now that's like, best case scenario. I feel like that's like peaches and cream. It sounds nice, right?
That would never happen on the first one for sure.
Right. I think making that happen on the first one would be tougher. But I think also too, like once you've done one Airbnb, whether it be an arbitrage or not, you have a really good idea of like how to do the setup. And then it's about, learning that arbitrage specific kind of flavor, right? And how do I talk to the landlords? What does it look like setting this up in an apartment I don't own, working at the maintenance and stuff like that. But I feel like after that, I definitely could see it working well. I want to try it out myself again, just because I know it can work if you find the one big issue I ran into is that me and the landlord kept butting heads a lot. And I knew going into the deal, really, I shouldn't have signed the lease. I was so eager to like get an arbitrage and like make some more cash flow that I was kind of ignoring some obvious red flags of me, of just the relationship not working out well and us, not having a good business relationship. So that ended up really affecting the deal and like affecting the money that I can make. And I kind of ended up getting screwed on like the security deposit piece. So yeah, we'll definitely take those lessons. I want to go into the next one, but I think that it can be done well. Yeah.
He was making it sound like you still could have, a lot of delegation to the tasks that were what I would consider like the main part of the job, because, with running the Airbnb as a tenant, there's even more, responsibility and, potential risk that could go into letting the place get messed up and, all that type of thing, rather than if you're an owner, you're going to have to just take care of it, however you do. There's other people involved. So I was kind of surprised to hear him say that there was a way to do this and not spend, a lot of time on it also. But, I'm sure he has a process to get that done, but.
Yeah, and I think Rich was a wealth of knowledge. And one of the things that he has going for him that we got to keep in mind is he's got 75 or so properties, right? He's got a bunch under management, a bunch owned. And so once you start to get to scale, it gets significantly easier. I can't tell you the last time I actually sent a message to a guest, right? We got VAs, operations manager. I just get text messages when something hits the fan. They're like, hey, Nee, is it good if we move forward on this? I'm like, yeah, sure. Uh, but keep me updated, right, on different things of that nature. And so with the more scale that you get, the easier it gets. And one of the things, I guess, instead of the arbitrage model, what I've personally leaned into is the management model. Like to Desmond's point, once you set up one or two of these, you understand how to set up the systems and manage. Adding more units doesn't necessarily add more stress to your plate, right? You've got all the automations going anyway. You know exactly what you need in that unit, how to set up a cleaning closet, how to set up the locks to where they're automatically going to do their thing, the cameras, all that stuff. And so you could help somebody else take on the management task, and that's pure cash flow as well. And I think that may be even purer than the rental arbitrage, because you're not out of pocket 10K, right? You're actually making money from day one. So that's kind of, my philosophy. That's why we've leaned a bit into the management piece. And one of the goals that we have this year is to manage one unit out of state, similar to what Rich is doing, so that we can start to expand in other states as well, and then eventually go out of country.
So how do you charge for the management? Is it per booking, or is it just they pay you a fee?
We charge off the top, just like any other management. So when you look at long-term rental management, typically management companies will charge anywhere from 6 to 10%, because when you plug in a long-term renter, they're not doing anything. After a month or two, they don't even want to be bothered. Like, for example, you're renting right now, right? I'm sure the first month there was some odds and ends. Hey, can you fix this and that? But the past 8 months, you've probably just been like, hey, man, I'm good. Like, just leave me alone, right? I'm paying every month and kind of go about your way. So they charge a bit less. For short-term rental management, because it's more involved and there's constant communication and things that need to get fixed, people charge anywhere from 18 to 30%. We charge 20% because it wasn't my goal to build out a whole company. I just, people started asking. I was like, all right, sure. And this is what allows us to pay the rest of our team. But we charge 20% of the gross, right? And that's pretty good when you think about some of the properties we manage.
Now, are they still making a profit when they do that? Because I would hire a management company, but I don't feel like I can't give up 20% and still, you know what I mean? Like the profit wasn't there. But I guess obviously if it's building, they're making it.
It's almost like what I'm blanking right now. What Rashid, who we had on a couple weeks ago, was talking about, right? If you have multiple units, it's a bit easier to cover that spread because you've got two of them that are going to cover you. In full transparency, your two most expenses are cleaning and management. That can take up 40% of the income right there, right? And so it's going to be tight. It has to be the right deal. And if it's not the right deal, you're probably going to be breaking even most of the time. But some of the individuals that we work with truly just want to have this property continue to grow in equity and kind of have that first one take off and us to handle it for them from the beginning until they eventually take over. And so they're good with that. and other ones have a big enough spread that it doesn't matter, i.e. the mansion makes so much that they're like, dude, yeah, we'll pay that management fee and you guys just handle everything. But if you're starting out and you're looking at, hey, like your budget and trying to make sure that you can recoup all these funds very quickly, I honestly try to push people toward like, dude, if you can manage this yourself, it's not that hard. It just takes setting up the systems and making sure that you're kind of on it in the beginning, and then you can automate a lot of it. So just keep those numbers in mind. First is cleaning. Cleaning cost is probably going to be your highest, but most people do want to outsource that. Next is the management cost, which at 20% is a good amount of that income that you could have as your profit.
I think for me, what I've been a little scared about in terms of the management piece, because it's definitely a question I've gone over a lot in my head too, on which I want to lean into, because I know I want to take it a bit further or a bit faster, I should say, even than just getting one property a year, right? It'd be nice to have some activity going on between that in the limited time between my W-2, right? But what kind of scares me is being at like the beck and call of the property owners, right? And I think that's the biggest kind of concern that I have. 'Cause I know with my rentals, sometimes I might do things like a little ad hoc sometimes, or like we might not like do it perfectly, but like it works and the guests are okay with it. So like it's fine, right? But I think that's what my biggest concern is like not having my shit buttoned up enough and not, having everything be perfect to where if someone, I don't know, right? I guess just having to answer to someone else and like, provide reports and provide, everything that someone might want when they're paying you. And, that response level, I think as well concerns me, especially given that I am the staff. This is the team, right? So can you speak to that a little bit? Like, is it something that you think you'd be able to do not having the folks that you have on your side, or how was it getting started, I guess?
Yeah, and so that's thank you for bringing that up. That's a huge piece. And yes, you do have to answer, right? And so it's one where you need to have those systems and really kind of tight and have like, hey, if this happens, what's the process? Okay, this is what we're going to do. And this is the process for setting it all up. And this is how you have access. And this is how we can set up time to talk. Otherwise, you'll get calls at like 9 p.m. for the smallest thing. Like, hey, the tenant just sent a message. Did you see the message come through? Yes, I saw the message. Everybody saw the message, right? We're gonna handle this piece. And so you definitely do got to set boundaries, because literally it could turn into a 24-hour thing and you will burn out very quickly. I've learned that. And so you got to set boundaries for all that stuff. Even just your work-life balance in general, right? So that's one piece. But starting out, I was the one-man team. And before I knew about setting boundaries, it was like a 24-hour thing, especially when I was working the W-2. So I'd literally stop that. And then, around the time you finish work is when everybody's checking in. So that's when you're sending all these messages. And it was me solo. And I could do I think we got to about 5 or 6 properties solo when I was like, you know what? I need some help. Otherwise, I can't keep going, right? And so when we got to that 5 or 6 properties, that's when I started looking for a guest experience manager. I just started out with just another individual who wanted to get into real estate, wanted to learn this game, was interested in being, a property manager, short-term rental manager. And I met them actually through somebody else who joined these calls. They said, hey, this person's interested. Talk to them. They came on board. I gave them a percentage of what we brought in from a management standpoint. And that's how it started. And we went through many iterations to get to what we have now, which is VAs that work around the clock 24/7, and they're our front line of defense. Plus we have like a WhatsApp group with our operations manager, as well as me as like a backup to send anything that they need questions on. And then we have another chat that's with the cleaners, the VAs and the operations manager in case there's something that needs to get taken care of. And so it's not going to start that way on day one. It's really just going to be you, right? And then you continue to grow little by little. And the more units you take on, the more economies of scale you can get to. But to your point, it's going to be painful up front because you don't necessarily have the income coming in to make it worth somebody's while. But you got to fight through that pain point until you get to about 6 or so units. And then you can really just take off because it's no longer dependent on only you.
Yeah, and I think that in between part is definitely tough when you don't have like enough work to give someone to, be enough for even like a part-time job, right? You also don't have the capital to pay someone to work a part-time job. So it's like you're putting in the hours for that job. So like there's been some days I'm like, man, like I gotta find time to like do my actual job. Me sometimes like, man, like are you working? Like because it can definitely be tough. I feel like during the day having to like do that response, especially for the short-term rentals, right? I think for the long term it's a very different piece, but for the short term when the level of support is like minute by minute, I think it can be tough. One question I did want to ask, because we are talking about short terms, how do you guys manage and do you guys do any sort of like routine checks, right? So like deep cleans, like routine maintenance, like pest control. This is stuff I'm trying to like get better at and bump my cadence up on, since it's slipping in some places I've noticed. So
Eric,
question I
what you
had.
got, man? You've been in the game for a minute now. What were you doing any of that?
Oh,
Kicking it over to Eric.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I guess I have like a few different things for that. I guess for some transparency, so my Airbnb, the top is like sorry, I run the top of my house as an Airbnb. So the main thing I have like automated is like the landscaping, the cleaning for that, and like the guest messaging, of course, for that. And in terms of like the routine stuff, normally what I'll do is I'll stock the cleaning closet and a lot of those like tasks that we have to do, like change out the battery, stock the cleaning closet, like towels, putting extra towels, making sure that's all done, doing a check of the house to see if it needs to be deep cleaned and stuff like that. I'll do that like once a month. I'll try to do that. And then a lot of the other times I just have the cleaner will go through and they'll be doing those routine stuff of just the cleaning, changing the linens and stuff like that, like refilling the soap dispensers and stuff like that. And then I also have like a schedule for like pest control. They just, you just sign up for that and they come at certain time periods and stuff like that.
Robbie,
And
what you
then,
got?
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, Eric. Please.
And then I guess just personally for me, I also just like when I schedule those things for like once a month, that's also when I'm normally doing the purchasing for my Airbnb. So right after I do that thing, I see what's out of stock and I also do purchasing once a month for whatever's I need for that.
yeah, I mean, he hit on a lot of it. The only thing that I do a little bit different is I put a lot more on my cleaners to just kind of restock everything and let me know, what's going on if, the guest needs something right away on that rare instance, then they'll usually be able to take care of it. And, especially if I'm out of town, they'll do the trash, just because I'm in a single family house. So you got to pull the trash out to the curb and all that stuff. But I think the biggest thing is, just having someone that once, because the cleaners took forever to get the right ones. It took like 3 or 4 different cleaners to figure out how to actually clean the house right, leave the key where it needs to be and all that. But once you find them, like, even if it costs you a little more, you can lean into them because they're going to be at the house more than you. And, that's been working really well, making my life a lot easier.
Agreed with all the above. And adding on from Robbie and Eric, first and foremost, cleaners are your first line of defense. I think you know that. They're the ones that are going to tell you if anything's up. And then also we look at the reviews, right? On a weekly basis, we're looking at what reviews have come in and if there's anything awry from a cleanliness standpoint or from anything. Like we're taking a look and we're sending our team back out there to go investigate. So we have the operations manager. She'll go to look at a property. If somebody says like, hey, I don't know, or they send a message, hey, the chairs were wobbly, things of that nature. Okay, we're going to send our operations manager out there to check and see the whole house. And then we'll get the maintenance team out to correct any issues that we see. As far as like setting up other things just for the quarterly maintenance, we also do the filters, right? So when you look at like HVAC and furnace, these things can run like a car, right? If you keep giving it the oil change, if you keep doing those filter changes every 3 months, they'll run for a very long time. And so we do that piece. And anytime we have somebody on site doing the filter changes, they're also checking around to see if there's anything else that needs to be fixed. And then we do quarterly checks with our operations manager as well to make sure, do we need to switch out rugs and things of that nature. But typically the cool thing about short-term rentals versus long-term rentals is a long-term rental, you don't know if you're going to need to really gut rehab the whole thing until the person moves out. There could be a bunch of stuff in there nobody's visiting, they haven't reached out in 8 months, and you're just like collecting money, right? And then you get they leave the property, and you realize, hey, all that money's going back into the property. Whereas with short-term rentals, you're getting constant feedback from guests, from cleaners, from maintenance individuals. So it's a lot less likely that something's going to slip through the cracks. But to answer your question on the pest control too, I think Eric talked about it. I would highly recommend in Georgia, in the city, in the forest, that you hire pest control and pay them to come out on a bi-monthly or quarterly basis. It's worth it. And if anybody sees any bug, you can call them and they'll come right back out for free.
Man, you know I'm DIY extraordinaire. I got to do everything in-house first, at least. At least a couple months of doing it on my own. So I'm still Orkin in my building, Mr. Orkin. But once I move, that'll probably go away at some point.
The sooner the better. And that's honestly one of the cheapest expenses. I think it costs like $90 a quarter or something to have them come out and do that. So.
I need that 90, man.
No, that's fair.
90 stacking up.
That is fair. Guys, we got about 5 left. Is there anything that's top of mind from the chat and or on live call?
If anyone has a good plumber that they can recommend, pass it over to me, please. I'd appreciate it.
Done and done. Do we want to ask why?
Nothing crazy. Actually, my water bill was insane. Like, it was like $800 or something.
What?
And so, yeah. So I called them and I was like, I'm not paying this, you know? And so they said, just pay like what it usually is. It's usually like $50. And then have somebody come out and check all the pipes. And then if you find something, send the invoice in, send the information from the plumber, and we'll adjust it or whatever. But, that's basically the situation. But they don't, I'm not going to pay that. I'm just not going to pay all that. So it'll get fixed one way or another. But I got to get someone to come out and look at everything. Because there wasn't even really anyone in the house like that month. Because it was like, I think it was December or January. I think it was January where like not many people were even there. And I wasn't doing a good job of changing my prices either. So it wasn't getting booked that much. But the bill was still like that high. So
yeah, it's definitely probably like a leak to their point somewhere. So yeah, it's semi-urgent. I will text you somebody. And if anybody else has somebody, please send it Robbie's way.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Of course. All right,
While we're doing, well, sorry, I'm going to say one more thing too. While we're doing recommendations, a waterproofing guy, and I think Nee, you had sent me one. I need to hit him up. Lupe, yeah, I need to hit him up. You had sent me his contact for the new property, but for my Dude, my bad. But yeah, man, I have water coming into my unit still, like 6 months later, after French drain installation, after seals around the door and stuff. It's still like flooding in the living room when guests are staying there. Literally, it's been like puddles in the living room. So I've gone down there multiple times, like during a guest stay, and like, man, DIY everything, DIY everything. I'm down there like on the floor, hands and knees and towels. They're like watching like reality TV. I'm like cleaning up the water. So I'm still trying to get that figured out before I go to Spain next month. Would appreciate any Rex.
Done.
Yeah.
Done and done. So we will send that your way. And if anybody else has any recommendations too, please send that to Desmond.
Yeah. You're down there like housekeeping,
right, y'all.
making it happen.
Come on now.
Got to.
Hey, Desmond is slowly but surely getting out of all this stuff. He used to be doing everything. Now he's
I used to be at the laundromat right now.
Yeah,
doing laundry.
Like, what is that noise in the background? Oh, don't worry, it's the 3 dryers
He needs
going.
to understand what they're supposed to do. That way, if they don't do it, hey, I was doing this. If you can't, there it is.
You get it. Levon gets it.
I get it. I'm like that too, brother.
There you go. There you go.
I just skipped to the end. I skipped to the point where it's like, all right, I'm tired, and I just want somebody else to do it.
Yeah. See, you can do that. It's all the money.
We played a different game.
Hey, come on now. No, Guys, I appreciate you joining tonight. Again, we're working to get a couple more guests on. I think the last 2 guests we had have been pretty experienced and brought some cool perspectives. And so Levi and I are going to continue to lead the charge there. But we appreciate you joining, and we will catch you next week.
Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast track your path to financial